Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Intentional Improvement. The guest I have here today, I personally have a lot of questions for her because as a woman nearing my 40s, she is a woman that has mastered and coaches women on how to get their cortisol levels in line and overall manage their hormones. And if you're a woman over 40 or nearing 40, hormones has a big effect on our overall health. Christine Marie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
I am excited to have you here because, I personally have a lot of questions because hormones and health is one of those things where it's kind of a mystery, especially if you have not studied it.
Yeah.
But, getting to know you a little bit, before this podcast, you've told me some of your background and your knowledge and who you've been certified by. So let's talk to the audience about your knowledge and who you've talked to and how you got where you are today.
So my husband and I, we were foster parents for 10 years. We took in 77 foster kids. We adopted both of our daughters. And I also grew up in a pretty stressful home growing up. My dad served in the military and my mom was a full-time mom. And without the internet or cell phones, life was so different. And so growing up in chronic stress, what can happen is your brain can actually get and your body gets addicted to these cortisol spikes. And so it was no surprise that I ended up as a foster parent taking in so many kids because my brain and my body felt most safe in an environment of chaos. So once we finished fostering, I began this deep healing journey. I grew up in the church. I grew up a believer my whole life, but I didn't quite understand science and how it was important to the Bible and how they just went along with each other so perfectly. So through healing, through working with a lot of coaches, and then going to my doctors because I started developing all these symptoms. As soon as I walked away from foster care, I ended up with cysts, I ended up with precancerous cells, I needed surgery, and my body started exhibiting all of these symptoms that I couldn't explain. And doctors just continued to give me more diagnoses.
And it was all stress-induced.
It was all stress. It was all chronic stress. And they put me on medications, which the medications I was put on had other additional side effects. And then they would put me on medications for the side effects of the medications I was on. And I ended up at one point on 2 medications, one for anxiety, social anxiety. I was diagnosed with social anxiety disorder. I was also diagnosed with panic attacks and PTSD and fibromyalgia, all kinds of diagnoses that were just truly, my body was having symptoms of this long period of chronic stress. So I began working with coaches, I began working with therapists and doctors and naturopaths, and I went down every possible rabbit hole to try and figure out how could I heal my body. And I ended up working with a coach for quite a long time. I ended up getting certified as a biblical mindset coach, and I thought I was going to launch into coaching for mindset coaching. And I'm very Holy Spirit led. And God was like, no, not yet. And I was like, what? I'm ready. I want to be a coach for women. And then he had me and connect with a neurosurgeon. And she offered to certify me as a biblical mindset coach, which I already had the certification. But what that led me down was brain science and understanding your body and your hormones and how chronic stress can lead to living in fight or flight, can lead to adrenal fatigue, can lead to all of these symptoms that my body was exhibiting, and then started learning more about cortisol. And all of the pieces went together of my body was addicted to these cortisol spikes, but your body is never meant to produce as much cortisol as mine was. And then I was like, I don't think I want to be a mindset coach. I truly want to help women with their hormone levels because I feel like it wasn't talked about. And so that led me on the search for products that were truly going to help and support my body. And I found the most amazing, incredible, I feel like it's a taboo word to say network marketing, but network marketing company that had the exact products I was looking for. And I'm impatient. And they worked within 15 minutes.
Oh, wow.
I know.
And you saw results
I
within
saw
15
results
minutes.
within 15 minutes. Now, of course, it takes longer for that cellular health, and now it's been 2.5 years. And I truly feel like my mindset and my healing is in a place that I only dreamt of. And so now I get the blessing of being able to help women and men, and I've helped thousands with their hormones and cortisol levels now.
Yeah, wow. So how much of this really does start in the mind? Do we induce and create our own cortisol spikes, or is it our body saying, oh, we missed that, it's time to spike it up so we can get stressed out?
Oh gosh, I think it's so much both, because as a child, our brains develop these neural pathways, and a lot of times even in utero, if you are in a stressful environment, as far as maybe your parents have, maybe there's domestic violence or any sort of stress that your mother is under, it is going to directly impact the fetus. And those neural pathways are developed in utero. And so as you grow up, your brain, your mind, your thoughts are going to lead you to your reality.
Yes.
And so these thought pathways, can you change them? 100%. It takes 67 days to create a new brain pathway, but that is intentional thinking and action. But your body is responding to, I believe it's synergistic. It's responding to your mind, and your mind's responding to your body. And it's just that some people live in chronic stress, and you put them in a peaceful environment, and that's cortisol inducing.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't feel comfortable.
So what does your body do with cortisol when it has all of this? Like, how is your body metabolizing it? What is it doing with it? And how does it affect the rest of your hormone health as a woman?
So it's interesting, because when your cortisol is spiked, it also impacts the other hormones in your body as well. So there's actually a lot of women out there who have low testosterone levels because all of your hormones work together. It was interesting. I was speaking to a doctor who is on our medical advisory board with the company that I'm with. And he said a lot of times his patients, like a woman who's married, will bring her husband in and say, my husband has low testosterone and it's impacting all areas of our marriage. And he'll go through all the things. And it always turns out, he said, usually that the wife is also having testosterone issues, but it's impacted by your cortisol levels. And so the thing is, as your body produces more cortisol, your body is in overdrive. It's in the sense of fight or flight. And so it starts cutting off it's prioritizing that. So people experience hair loss because that's a non-needed function. Like, truthfully, we don't need hair to live. We need our heart.
But we really want hair.
We really want it, yeah. And we need our heart function properly. And so it just starts cutting off all of these other areas because they're not necessary for your survival. And so that was one of the things with me. I noticed extreme hair loss. And that's the other piece I wanted to mention too. I went and had my cortisol levels tested. And so I've had a lot of people message me and said, my cortisol levels are fine, but your cortisol levels change throughout the day. So unless you're testing at the exact right moment, you really don't know. It could show up perfect like mine was, and you are still struggling with all of these symptoms. And that was kind of what led me here, because I thought, the doctors are testing me. They're saying I'm fine. They're looking at all these other things, but I have new food allergies. I have all of these other symptoms that my body is in survival mode. And so it does impact your other hormones. Every piece of your body works together. And that's a really big piece that I've noticed with women and men is testosterone impacts.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I recently went through that as well, because I recently found out maybe about 9 months ago that my testosterone was at a negative 12 level. It was so non-existent, and it actually led to a thyroid problem. So I had hypo, where it's underactive, right? So I had hypothyroidism. My testosterone was negative 12, and of course our sex life was suffering. And here's the thing. When you are married, I think it's really important to talk about sex, because that's the glue in the bond that helps that covenant stay. And if you don't have that, I mean, so many things go wrong. And a lot of it was tied to my cortisol level. My cortisol level was high. And anything can affect it. Even just going outside in the sunlight for 20 minutes can increase your cortisol level. So it's very sensitive. But as soon as I fixed my cortisol level, like, I started training my mind to realize, like, everything's okay, nothing's gone wrong, we're in a safe space, everything's going to work out the way it needs to. I got on the testosterone to fix my testosterone, and taking the beef desiccated thyroid medicine instead of pharmaceutical versions. Not only is sex life wonderful, husband's very happy, but I'm happy. I'm happy, and I feel good, and I finally feel like I'm losing weight again. Because when you're so stressed out, I was just puffy. I was puffy all the time. I was always in a panic. I was never happy.
That's, I think, the biggest thing. So one of my biggest struggles is I was always a frustrated, overwhelmed, like overstimulated mom. And I was always freaking out. But I felt like I wasn't even comfortable in my own skin. Like the smallest thing would make me angry. And it was just truly that I was overstimulated and I was overwhelmed emotionally. And because my body was like, we are done. There's nothing left. Like I didn't have reservoirs. And it's so interesting that you bring up sex because I, for the first time, maybe a couple weeks ago, breached that subject on my Instagram. And people were kind of surprised that my husband was okay that I was talking about it. And we did not go super deep yet, but it impacts your entire marriage. And most women don't want to talk about sex.
That's how it's terrible how taboo it is.
It
But it's
is.
like, I mean, what does the Bible say? Be fruitful and multiply. It's like the first thing God tells
Yes.
Adam and Eve.
Yep.
And I don't understand why we're not supposed to talk about it. It literally will bond a marriage and keep it strong.
Well, and I was talking about it from the perspective, too, about that if a woman's cortisol is high and a man's testosterone is low, which could be from high cortisol as well. Men have the same hormones. And there is a huge addiction, especially in the church, of men being addicted to pornography. And it's so taboo to talk about it. But what's the rooting in a lot of cases is there is a lack of intimacy in the marriage. And so that's where I was like, why are we not talking about this? You know, I was talking about, how is it different than talking about anxiety? Like, we're all fine talking about anxiety.
You have to get to the root.
We have to.
Yes, you
We're
have
all
to.
fine talking about hormones, but not sex. Let's just leave that topic off. But it's normal. It's a normal function of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was at soccer practice with my son a couple days ago. And so, you know, moms enjoy talking. And
Yeah.
as soon as I brought up the topic of sex, because, you know, for me, I am not ashamed to talk about the one thing that's natural.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to talk about it, you can move out of our area. You can go somewhere else.
Right.
But every mom stayed, and every mom was like, you have sex how often? And I was like, you know, for me, it's a minimum of 5 times a week.
Yeah.
Absolute minimum, because it's that important to us
Yeah.
to keep our marriage strong, and it keeps temptation away.
I love that you say that because it's really easy for a man or woman, if you're not satisfied with your spouse, to find other things, you know.
And tempt,
Yeah.
when your armor is down,
Yeah.
even Jesus, when he was fasting for 40 days and 40 nights, had to put on his armor through prayer.
Oh, I love that.
We have to do the same. And part of that is that glue, that bond, that
Agreed.
fixing that temptation with your partner.
Agreed.
But yes, I mean, every woman was like, oh my gosh, this is so interesting. And I told them, I was like, it's one of those things where you just can't be afraid to talk about it with your partner, and you need to communicate. Do whatever you have to do to feel good about it. But if you want to have a long-lasting marriage, and if you want your kids to watch you and see what a healthy marriage is like so they can go have a healthy marriage, you need to fix your sex life.
100%. I love that.
Yeah, but it was not fixed until I addressed my testosterone. Now I'm like a dog off my leash with my husband. He's happy. I'm happy, but testosterone was a big, big deal, and a lot of it was contributed to my really high cortisol levels. So let's talk about some of the other hormones that are affected by cortisol levels. So let's say if somebody is just, they do not address the cortisol level, what happens to the rest of their hormones and to their body over time?
So, especially estrogen in women, like you are going to notice fluctuations. I mean, and it depends because your cortisol can be high or your cortisol can be low. And it can be different based on what's going on in your life. So I have some women, and some of the symptoms overlap. And so your estrogen, your progesterone, those levels are going to be impacted as well. And those are going to impact, I mean, even like with my body, when, you know, my body started creating precancerous cells because the hormones, the estrogen in my uterus were off.
Yeah.
And it also developed fibroids. I had dozens of fibroids and endometriosis. Like there's so many other physical symptoms that are going to happen just because your estrogen is imbalanced. And when your cortisol is high, your estrogen is going to be low. And so these are things that impact mental health as well.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically mental health. That's usually one of the first symptoms. There's a lot of first symptoms, but your hormones just as a whole are impacted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
What happens to a person over time? Let's circle back and talk about your health issues. So you found out that you were having all these health issues, found out you had precancerous cells.
Yeah.
How did you fix that and go into remission?
So it was interesting. They had found that one of my ovaries had a growth in it. And they wanted me to come back in 4 weeks, and they did another ultrasound and measured it, and it had doubled in size. And so that's when they said, we need to get you. They got me in for surgery within a week, and they explored it, and they said, these are precancerous cells. There's nothing we need to do because they were fully contained within my ovary. But I also had so many fibroids that you could literally feel them through my skin on my stomach. And what was happening a lot of times is I would eat, and it could be something I ate yesterday, and it was fine. But my stomach would grow so big and get hard, and it would hurt. And I looked 3 to 5 months pregnant after I would eat, and it was embarrassing because we would go out to dinner, and I didn't know what was wrong. And I was irritable bowel syndrome. I was diagnosed with that. And it was hard. At that time, I was working a full-time job and needing to say, I need to go to the bathroom like this very second is embarrassing. And you just think, okay, it must have been something I ate. Well, it was, because your body is like your digestive system, your gut health, everything
Very sensitive.
is so sensitive. And so I tried elimination. I went to a naturopath, and I had food testing done, and she was able to come back conclusively that there were 4 things that I was allergic to, or not anaphylaxis allergic to, but I should not eat them because they would produce these symptoms. I also suffered with chronic migraines, and so I was on every migraine medication that you can imagine, trying to figure out one that wouldn't cause me to feel like my brain was bleeding or my brain was burning or make the migraine worse. And then when they put me on a really strong anti-anxiety medication, I actually went through a period that's called emotionally flatlining, which I didn't even know this was a thing. But when you are put on too much medication, I didn't care about anything. There wasn't a single thing that I cared about. And when I was taken off that and put on a different one, it made it better, but I still didn't, my body was still so stressed out, and emotionally, I was so stressed out, which led to me drinking. And I was drinking easily a bottle of wine a night.
So now you're just trying to self-cope.
100%.
Okay. Now how did you fix this?
So that's where it was beginning to understand. It wasn't until working with, and I had seen therapists and I had worked with coaches, but it wasn't until I started working with a brain-based coach that really dug into the Bible and how God calls us to renew our mind on His Word. And understanding that I could create new pathways. That was unlocking for me, because I realized if I can get myself to this place of I can feel good for 30 minutes in a day, I could find myself peaceful. I could truly think of what life would be like if I was in a healed version of myself. And I became more dependent on Jesus and Holy Spirit. And a lot of it's so crazy. So I grew up a believer my whole life, but we grew up Baptist. And I don't know why, but the church that we went to, the Holy Spirit was never talked about. It was never talked about how we have the authority and the power of Christ inside of us.
Do they believe in the Trinity?
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting.
But it was called like the Holy Ghost. And it was talked about sometimes, but not that it gives us the full authority and what that looked like. And so as I began unpacking all of these things and the brain science behind it, I thought, you know what? Like, God wants me healed and whole. And I am going to chase and pursue this in any possible way. And so that's where I began trying every single supplement, trying to work out. I remember when I tried 75 hard for the first time, and I think I made it 2 days. But then I realized really to reset your cortisol levels, you need to be gentle and loving with your body. And I have recently, within the past 2 years, created the 75-day Cortisol Reset. And it's all about loving yourself. And you start out walking. You start out drinking water to flush out the toxins out of your body. You make sure you sleep enough, because sleep impacts your cortisol levels tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
Also, that you're reading the Bible and renewing your mind. It's definitely been a journey, but the small, tiny steps towards healing that I received and was able to walk through, it gave me more hope and it built on itself. But then truly working with the neurosurgeon who connected all of the brain-based science to the Bible was life-changing.
It reminds me, and maybe it was him. My goodness, I would just have goosebumps if you said it is him. But Dr. Joe Dispenza is also a neurosurgeon, a neuroscientist and surgeon, who explains that the biblical principles and everything that's taught in the Bible is actually what heals us on all levels. It really does recenter us. It brings us back. It just brings a sense of peace and calm. And of course, you can't, and that's why the Bible tells us to be still, because that is where everything is recentered and realigned. So you're on this path of understanding the biblical principles, and you're coaching and mentoring with this neurosurgeon. What happens next? So you're starting to balance out your health.
Yeah.
You stop drinking. You're fixing your diet. Where does that take you?
So one of the things that I did next was launching my own podcast for foster and adoptive parents. As I told you, we fostered 77 kids, and there was a lot of trauma. These kids, there was so much trauma personally, and I had taken on so much emotionally to do this, and I thought it was my entire identity was being a foster parent and adoptive parent. And so when I launched this podcast, it was truly just about healing and being able to share the deepest lessons that I learned to hopefully make a difference in the lives of others. And every time I would do a podcast episode, it was like ripping off a scar, digging in, and beginning the process of healing. And so it was very therapeutic. And I've gone through a lot of seasons of I just don't want to do the podcast anymore because it's just too hard sometimes. But when you keep pushing through hard, eventually you become healed.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was then looking for the right products that would help me. And that's when I found these right products. I was so excited because I knew this was the bridge I had been praying for. I am definitely an overachiever. I love staying busy. My husband would always say, "Why don't you just be a mom?" And I was like, that's boring. Like, I want to be more. Like, God isn't a God of and. He says we can be a mom and. We could be an entrepreneur. We can be whatever we want to be. But He's created each of us, I believe, with a purpose. And so when we're walking in our purpose, God's flow shows up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just this open heaven where you can step into everything you're meant to be. And He's actually helping you because you're walking in His will.
Yeah, God is very abundant, very
Yes.
generous.
He
God.
is. He is. And that's where, it began breaking off all of these religious mindsets that I had. And these mindsets that, I grew up with that I realized they're not true. Yes, money doesn't grow on trees, but God's the owner of all the money. Like all of these things, these limiting beliefs that I began breaking off and wanting this for other women. Mm-hmm. So I was able to get off 3 medications. I actually never had fibromyalgia, even though I was diagnosed with it.
Why did they diagnose you with that, even though you didn't have it?
So it was actually for a cane sugar allergy. So, which was when I stopped eating cane sugar, when the doctor, the naturopath said, cane sugar is showing up as you have a food allergy to it. Mm. I thought, how can you be allergic to sugar? Well, cane sugar is one of the most highly pesticided foods out there.
Interesting.
Yes, and so is peanuts and almonds and potatoes, all the things I was allergic to. So then I went and had liver testing done. And my liver was not detoxing properly the pesticides. And so I had over 1,000 times what is normal of Monsanto's.
So is it safe to say that you eat all organic right now?
After this, I went and had food testing again. I just recently had it done. So I'm on a very, very limited diet of what I eat now because I'm in the process of healing my gut.
Well, I mean, you look amazing, so
Thank you.
you've got to tell us what you're eating.
So I eat a lot of chicken. I actually cut beef out of my diet completely because beef is very pesticided as well because the cows eat food that is pesticided, right? So I've had to be really careful. Basically, I'm looking at foods, fruits and vegetables, yes, absolutely organic, but I eat just chicken and turkey right now, and that's it for meat because I'm noticing that as my gut health improves, which our microbiome, they say our gut is our second brain. And so healing that has become a top priority for me as well. It's just like every tiny improvement leads to another change and just fine tuning what I'm doing. And so just poultry, chicken.
Just poultry? Okay,
Just
so white
poultry.
meat.
Yeah,
Are
white
you
meat.
eating fish?
So I actually don't like fish.
Okay.
I don't like any seafood. And there are quite a few fish that I'm allergic to. I am getting close to the idea of possibly trying something seafood in the near future.
Maybe start with a
Baby steps.
scallop. That's so good.
Yeah.
But okay, so what products have you used that have helped manage your cortisol level, help you lose weight, and really just take control back of your life?
So one of the big things, I did have MTHFR testing, which is genetic. I don't know if you'd call it like it's a genetic mutation that about 60% of the population has, which a lot of people with MTHFR can feel like they have ADHD. I was also diagnosed with ADHD. I don't actually have ADHD. I actually just have the mutation of the MTHFR, which can look like that. So I was on ADHD medication and I went off of it, and I am able to manage the MTHFR with a supplement that is specific for MTHFR, which just means my body can't process folate. So remember all those folate medications we take when we're pregnant? I took those, which is actually poison for my body because my body can't break it down. And then I partnered with a company called Believe, which is short for benevolence, and they have Cortisol Duo that is, it comes in several different flavors for the drinks, but that has helped on a cellular level as far as hormones, and it's all natural, it's clean ingredients. I had to double check everything to make sure there wasn't anything that I'm allergic to. But then I also take a vitamin D with a vitamin K mixed blend. I also take multi-magnesium supplement at night.
Magnesiums are so important.
So important. And then I also take creatine every single day. And I think a lot of us believed creatine was just for weightlifters, but it's actually super important for brain health.
It's very important for women.
Yes, it is. And so I think all of these things together has truly just been life-changing.
Yeah, so it's really healed you.
Yeah.
That's great. So it's probably safe to say that food is your medicine.
It is. And I have noticed that even when I have something that I shouldn't eat, I haven't had, and that was one thing that I did need to give up. I did need to give up alcohol because it breaks down into sugar. And
there's no benefit to it whatsoever.
There's none, and it actually deteriorates your brain. And so I went to a mastermind, I want to say about a month ago, and I had champagne. And when I went back to my room, my face was round. And it's the longer you're away from alcohol and then you have it, the worse it is for your body.
Yeah.
And my body is just, I mean, our body leaves clues, right? And so it truly just tells us what's working and what's not working. And brain fog, all of these things that we attribute to being a tired mom, they're not normal. Having brain fog, feeling exhausted, needing a midday nap, having excess belly fat, all of this stuff these are symptoms of low libido or no libido. These are all symptoms of high cortisol or low cortisol, and needing to numb with alcohol, carbs, and sugar. These are your body saying, I'm overwhelmed. I'm not being supported properly. I can't function at the level that you're trying to make me function at.
Yeah, if you are bloated or swollen, your body is telling you inflammation is a telltale sign that your body is fighting right now.
100%.
And that you need to get that inflammation down as fast as possible, which is elimination, stopping something, alcohol. You know, ever since I started working out and I started taking my health and taking all my supplements a lot more serious, whenever I drink alcohol, not only do I not feel good, but I don't feel the effects that I used to when I was drinking all the time.
Yeah.
So now that buzz or that little high that I would used to get, I don't get it anymore. So now I'm thinking, well, not only am I now bloated and round because my face just got so poofy and that I would not feel good, and I have that little bit of that brain fog or that brain fatigue, I realized there is just absolutely no benefit to it. And the long-term effects of that is just not worth it.
It's really not. And I feel like a lot of us, especially tired moms, drinking became socially acceptable. And I think it also because it's a dopamine hit, right? It's going to give us this serotonin, this dopamine, these feel-good hormones are going to flood our brain, and we feel really good. And then when it's socially acceptable, it's like, oh, we're just going to go have wine time. And I'm not knocking anybody who is doing that, but I'm just saying there's another version of you on the other side that can think clearly and doesn't feel terrible the next day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It's just one of those things, it has become so socially acceptable, but it is really not good for you.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, it is just a drug.
It truly is. And I mean, also, I feel the same way about sugar now. I mean, it's so easy. My dad brought over a dozen donuts the other day. And I looked at him and I'm like, that is poison in a box. Which, when my kids were little and all the way through teenage years,
it was normal.
It was normal. It was totally fine. It was a feel good, let's go get donuts and hot chocolate, which you're thinking, that's all sugar.
But now you know how your body reacts to it. And it's ultra processed. Nothing about it. You can't find a donut in the ground. You have to make it.
It's so unfortunate.
You can find peach donuts, donut peaches, sorry, the cute little flat peaches, but you cannot find a donut in the ground. It is ultra processed, and it's not good for you, and your body just does not know what to do with it. And it stores it as fat, and it makes you tired, and it does all the things that we don't want our body to do.
Well, and I think the other thing, too, so one of our adoptive daughters, she was diagnosed with Hashimoto's.
Oh.
And it's interesting because she had gained, I want to say, over 100 pounds or almost 100 pounds in the past, 5 years. And hormone levels for a long time looked fine, and until they weren't. And what we realized is that once we put her on a clean eating diet, she started losing weight. She didn't have the symptoms, and she was feeling amazing. And it's truly, and a lot of these autoimmune disorders, I believe, are caused from stored trauma and not working through hard things.
Let's talk about that. The stored trauma. How does that affect somebody?
So your body never forgets. There's a book called The Body Keeps a Score. And I knew this so clearly from the foster kids. We took very high needs foster kids. So you have a medical professional type. I've probably worked with that type of professional because these had, some of them were terminal, just really hard diagnoses. And what I saw is a lot of them had very extreme childhood backgrounds. And if any child, I mean, I would say that our girls were amazing, but any child who has been removed from their biological mother, the first bond that they ever have, there's a huge impact there. I wasn't removed from my parents. I grew up in a home with siblings, and my parents are still married, and I thought, I don't have trauma. Well, our parents have trauma from their parents who have trauma, and that's passed down even on a cellular level.
So would that be considered generational trauma?
It would. And I think that's where the Bible talks about generational strongholds. And, the sins of the father will be passed down how many generations. It's more than just those active sins. It's the yelling and the screaming and the dysfunction that before the fall would have never existed.
Okay. So the trauma, absolutely, if goes unaddressed, can definitely affect your cortisol level and your hormones. How do you fix it?
I truly believe that's where you need to work through it. And so with my biblical mindset coaching, that, like I was telling you, I had developed a whole coaching program to help women work through this trauma. And really the whole root is going back to, if we are made in the image of Christ, getting back to that place of when you're seeing somebody have success, you're not competitive with them. You're thinking, wow, they are walking in God's flow. That is amazing. That gives me hope and excitement. But if you've had getting to a point where you are healing your trauma, that you can use that point. I truly believe that God allows everything we've walked through for that to become our message. So getting to a point where you can reach out and help the other people that were once in your place. And it's, through therapists or through renewing your mind in the Bible or worship or taking time to just get outdoors. And it's okay to go there, to remember the hard things that happened in life, because realizing that that's not who you are. That is something that happened, but it's not who you are.
There's a lot of experiences that we need as people, as humans, that money cannot give us. And some of it is just so simple and free. I mean, just a simple conversation like this, or helping somebody who can never pay you back. 100%. That level of fulfillment that you're going to get from just doing that one good deed, knowing that that's probably going to change somebody's day. All of that, I think, is what helps us not only grow personally, but spiritually.
I think also, too, one of the biggest things that I had to put into place was boundaries. Because when you grow up in a chronically stressful or overwhelming, or you're addicted to cortisol, a lot of times your personality is a people pleaser. And you are trying to make everybody else happy.
Except yourself.
Except for yourself, because if they're not happy, it's going to cause stress for you. So you are doing everything to avoid stress.
We are going through this right now with our 10-year-old, where I'm trying to tell him that another person's happiness is not his responsibility, because it really is in their own mind. It's based on their own perception.
Right.
And if we're at a party and somebody's not having a fun time, but you are, that is definitely a personal problem.
Right.
And we have to get over that. We are not responsible for somebody else's happiness.
And that was a really, really amazing and hard lesson for me, because especially as being a foster parent, and you want these children to be happy and thrive and become their best self, but you can't choose healing for somebody else.
How do you get somebody to want healing for themselves?
I think that's a hard question. I think, truthfully, you can't push somebody to want healing. And I think that's the really hard reality that I've had to step into. But you can pray for them. You can be a role model for them. You can give them resources. You can pour out your knowledge and experience and love if they're willing to hear it. I think asking permission if they're open to hearing some feedback or some advice. But I truly think it's about setting an example around somebody else and showing them what healing looks like.
Yeah, and showing them what that transformation will do for them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you 3 questions.
Okay.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Wow. So as far as a few things. So as far as my podcast, I see it being a top foster parent podcast.
Because right now you're at the top 1.5% podcast for your genre, right?
Right now it's top 2%. And we're in 76 countries, which is amazing. And I'm so thankful. And it's all God. So just Him continuing to expand the tent pegs that grow the ministry. And then also, as far as network marketing, I see an entire team of Christian women and men who are using the resources to build God's kingdom. Truly. A few years ago, I heard a very clear download from Holy Spirit that there would be Holy Spirit revival in the network marketing industry. And that was very clear. And that's my true mission, is helping. And that all comes, it's not even about me. It all will happen by more men and women healing their bodies and stepping forward into healing. I would love to see that happen. I mean, just restoration and more men and women coming to Christ. It's so funny. It used to be, I have all these huge goals, monetary goals, right? But now it's not about that anymore. And it's truly about impact, kingdom impact.
Impact. How can you impact somebody's life when you are no longer here?
Truly, that's what's generationally changing.
I love that. Knowing what you know today, what would you go back and tell your 20-year-old self?
Oh gosh. Honestly, my husband used to always tell me when we first got married. So we got married when I was 20 and he was 25. And he would say to me, "Do you love chaos? Do you attract chaos?" And I was so defensive and I was so arrogant. And I would say, absolutely not. And I would really tell her to heal the broken pieces inside of her. But that would change my entire life's trajectory. And so that's why I kind of paused, because I would have never become a foster parent. I'm not sure if we would have adopted, but I would have done different, because I was allowing that chaos and that people pleasing and the constant need for significance in this world to shape my life and my reality. And it caused a lot of heartache. There were a lot of hard lessons.
Yeah.
And I would tell that younger self version of me that my body is a temple and to take good care of it. Looking back, I used to drink 3 mochas from a coffee shop a day. I mean,
It's a lot of sugar.
It's a lot of sugar. And I was pursuing the next dopamine hit. Like, what was exciting, what was amazing, what was going to make me feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And I would introduce her to the Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, get that healing started early.
Yes.
Last question.
Yes.
What does success look like to you?
Success looks like, it's so funny, in the past month it's totally changed. But success looks like building the biggest Instagram that is all about Jesus and brings people to Christ. I mean, yes, it's about the products that have changed my life, but it's not about that. Is to help others create an impact and multiply the kingdom. That's truly what success looks like for me.
Yeah, well, right now you've got about 400,000 followers who are, just waiting for you to say the next thing, show the next product that could help them. And I think your definition of success is beautiful.
Thank you.
Christine, where can people find you?
I am on Instagram as cortisol_coach, and that's the easiest way to connect with me. If they would like my 75-day cortisol reset guide, it can be found at itschristinemarie.com.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing your insight, and of course, just giving your good energy and your love to the audience. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Thank you. It's been amazing.
All right, thank you. Until next time, guys, see you in the next episode.